Ambien. Woke up in my underwear on my neighbor's porch. What drug did you take once and thought nope, never again? My dad gave me a Dilaudid he had left over from his hip surgery because I had a sore neck. I felt an almost overwhelming sense of euphoria. I knew I could never take another one. Never again will I touch that crap. I made the mistake of doing a hit after drinking some tequila and I had an out-of-body experience and felt like I was paralyzed. Only eyes could move and would only react to the flick of the lighter. We had a group of friends there and there were no lights at the park in my neighborhood. I had to make my way home after projectile vomiting on the side of a trash can and not a single friend helped me after that. Cut ties with a lot of them. The last time I ever smoked that shit, my head was spinning uncontrollably fast on my shoulders and all I saw was black and white swirls. I could simultaneously see into the past and the future. I heard voices that weren't there and then I stood up and projectile vomited across the living room. Worst trip ever. Sucks getting drugs mixed up. Was going to have a threesome in a hot tub once. I had a Coke, and one of the girls had K anyway. I jumped out to grab a drink from the kitchen, and thought I'd rip a fat line while I was in there. Obviously, I got things completely mixed up and did a Scarface-size line of ketamine. Eventually, they both came inside the house and found me naked and unconscious in the fetal position. Never tried K before. And I'll never try it again. OxyContin, shit was too relaxing and didn't last long. I had knee surgery and they gave it to me for the pain. I took it for a week and when I wasn't on it I really wanted more. After a week of it I never wanted to touch that shit again. Same for me. I was prescribed some after a pretty painful oral surgery, and the first day back at work, don't worry, it was a desk job, no heavy machinery, the pain was so bad I gave in and took one. I remember zoning out at one point, looking at the clock on my computer and realizing I had just sat at my desk staring at the screen for 2 hours. And my mouth still hurt like a bitch. I started with 30 pills and the other 29 sat in my cabinet for years until I finally took them into one of those expired drug collection things at a local pharmacy. That fake weed stuff that was around a little while back. Thought I was going to die. So hot. My sister found me naked passed out in the bathroom with my face against the bottom of the toilet. This really bothered me. I'm not a germaphobe but rather germ-aware. My girlfriend was having trouble sleeping and her doctor gave her a prescription for Ambien. The first couple of nights, no problem. Then I wake up one night and find her in the kitchen, all the burners on the stove turned on full. Semi-lucid, she said she wanted to make soup. I managed to get her back into bed. 2 nights after that, I wake up to find her out in the garage, in the car engine running wearing just a pair of knickers. Said she needed to go to Albertsons because we didn't have peanut butter. She quit taking Ambien after that. Trazodone for sure. I was in the hospital to get my heart fixed up and was having a hard time falling asleep. To this day no one is sure exactly what happened, if I was given too much or just had a bad reaction or what. But I remember laying there and thinking something wasn't right. I got up and just kinda wandered around trying to find a nurse. I was freezing but pretty sweaty too and couldn't really see or hear so well. And you know that feeling when you bang your funny bone? My whole body felt like that. The weirdest part was I kept realizing, oh man, I'm in trouble, and would start to panic, but then a second later I'd sort of forget and feel so serene. I remember a nurse running towards me, but she looked like she in slow motion, like we were underwater kinda. And I knew I had something really important to tell her but couldn't remember what it was. All I could think was how beautiful everything was, how the light was catching her hair and her sneakers squeaking across the floor sounded like a symphony. I remember smiling at her and just kinda slumping against the wall, and then everything went dark. I woke up hooked up to a bunch of monitors with a load of worried faces standing around. My blood pressure had dropped down to nothing, and if they hadn't found me when they did I probably would have died. 6/10 experience. It was very beautiful, but they made me chug so much yellow Gatorade, and to this day that stuff makes me gag. Tetracycline. Turns out I'm allergic. Fun fact. Tetracycline antibiotics are one of the few drugs that are actually dangerous to take past their expected date. Usually, a drug's expectation date just indicates a loss of potency, but they're generally not unsafe to take, you just won't get the same strength or might not have any effects at all. Not tetracycline. It literally becomes toxic. Salvia. I smoked it and instantly dropped the bowl. I thought I was in a reality where I was a giant Velcro pepperoni that was strapped onto a giant pizza and was trying to escape. I was actually just laying on the bed unable to get up. This is good because later the entire wall of my third-floor apartment opened up and I felt the urge to jump out, so I might have jumped out the window if I had been able to move. Good stuff. Benadryl. Took around 700 to 800 milligrams, like 25 or 30 pills, a while ago to trip. Not a good recreational drug. It's like how people who don't do drugs imagine acid to be like. It actually vividly see things and people that weren't there. I'd see people come in the room I was in and sit next to me on the couch and I'd start having a conversation with them, only to blink and have them disappear. It'd get up and start filling up a cup of water and bam, it'd be back on the couch, never having gotten up. I don't remember most of the night, but my friends said I was just in a completely different world. They had some funny stories from it, though apparently at one point I pulled my pants down and just said ants in my pants. I did meth twice. Never again. Just to clarify, I love it, it's the best thing ever. That's why I can't allow myself a third time, cause I know for sure I won't be able to stop. I got some 60x from the flea market lady that sells pipes and such. Loaded a bong bowl, took a big hit, and as I exhaled, gravity started pushing on me from sideways. It felt like the chair I was in was trying to become one with me, and as I scooted off the chair and onto the floor, it felt like detaching myself from it. Then, the lady on TV was yelling at me in some language I couldn't understand, and I'm all like, sorry, but I don't even know what a reppin' cancer is. Then I looked up and I knew I was a toy in some toddler's toy box, and I saw him recognize that something was different about me than his other toys, and as he began ambling over towards me with his face all alight, I thought, oh no, I don't want him to put me in his mouth. But before he could get to me, his mom came and picked him up and carried him away. He started crying and reaching out in my direction, and I felt so very guilty. Then I started to come out of it, and I just sat there for a minute wondering if he and the lady on the TV would forgive me someday. My ex-girlfriend got addicted to Xanax after we broke up, and when I heard about it from a friend I asked how much she was taking. 5 milligrams was the minimum for her to feel it. That's like 20x the normal. 25 milligrams dose, WTF. I took 25 milligrams once when I was having a panic attack and it put me to sleep. Was nice sleep, but I couldn't possibly imagine using something like that recreationally. For me, meth. I did it once under the presumption that it was cocaine. It was not. I had to go to the hospital. I mean, I probably didn't have to. But at the time, I had only smoked weed. I didn't know how to deal with the increased heart rate and paranoia. For my friend, diphenhydramine aka Benadryl. He is a really hardcore tripper and can handle inhuman amounts of psychedelic substances. But he said that the one drug he would never do again was Benadryl. He said that his experience had lots of spiders. I'm quite the psychonaut. So when I heard DPH was a thing, I, of course, had to try it. I did it way too many times, but the worst, absolute worst time was the last time I did it. I was in and out of consciousness and I was having such vivid dreams. I had been Snapchatting my ex-girlfriend. I'd wake up and we were talking at the time, but not about what I thought it was, so I'd answer in some delirious manner. Fall back asleep and repeat. Eventually, I started to sober down and my entire house was spinning around me and I couldn't move. Never again. Meth. I've taken prescription Adderall nearly my whole life, and I wanted to test all these people who told me you're just taking prescription meth. To say the least, I don't do either of them anymore. The two things I've taken from this thread is that salvia is the worst drug out there, and that realizing you want more of a drug is instantly the reason to never do it again. For me, I could probably say morphine for while on a hospital bed. Yeah, I might have had a pretty severe cut that was leaking blood like no tomorrow. But going from agonizing pain in hell to yeah, it's okay, I could die here happy if it had to be within a few minutes was just a fucked up experience that I don't want to touch willingly ever. Salvia. It's a very short trip, but I felt so much physical discomfort, like my whole body was being shoved into a box, despite the fact that I was sitting in the grass with a group of friends. Apparently, it's not an uncommon side effect of the drug. I felt like my body was made of sand and the air conditioner unit behind me was blowing me away piece by piece. One of the scariest experiences of my life. For me, it was coke. I'm a broke bitch, so after spending $80 for maybe an hour's worth of a high, I very quickly learned why it's called blow. You can blow through it and all your cash in a few days tops. Glad I got off that shit quick, woulda ruined me. For me it wasn't about the money, it was because I immediately knew I would be addicted for life. That shit is fucking awesome, and that's the reason it was one and done for me. It's been almost 35 years and I still remember that night like it was yesterday. Single-handedly the smartest decision I have ever made, and I was around people who continued to do it. Ketamine. The ER doctor said it was safer than propofol, yes, the stuff that killed Michael Jackson, that he used it in the army many times and it just has minor side effects. He'd inject me with it. I'd go out like a light and not remember a thing. Well, what seemed like years later, I woke up from my near-death experience with lizard god people hovering over me mumbling some foreign language. I had fell from reality, into a black hole. I traveled the cosmos of the universe, transcended the planes of time and landed back on some alien world, called Earth. A few hours later I realized I was in an ER and this doctor had taken me on a psychedelic trip of a lifetime. I got put to sleep as a not very religious person. I woke to question my existence and God. Never again. Well, until I die. I was given ketamine to knock me out for dental surgery, and I guess they didn't give me enough because I woke up halfway through, able to feel everything they were doing. The dentist looked like a giant crow pecking at my teeth. They noticed I was awake and gave me more, and when I finally woke up, I screamed the entire ride home and for 2 hours after. Just hysterical screaming. Let me preface by saying I was an idiot. I am very aware of this. Do not try this at home. It's not even the most dangerous drug nor hardest I ever tried. You can legally buy it if you're 18. I was 16 and stole it. Me and my friends stole a bunch of Dramamine, like 12 bottles. This was before they put them behind the counters. Well, our dumbasses all took at least 18 pills each and tripped balls. Scary monster-filled balls. It was awful. My friend got arrested. I almost did. I thought my car got stolen and called the police. Spoiler alert, it didn't. It was horrible. It was one of the worst nights of my life. It was Halloween like 2010 and I walked 3 miles in the dark dressed as Snooki from Jersey Shore. I was so high and scared I was seeing some weird shit in people. My friends and family kept appearing. It was the worst. When I finally made it home, the police got there because my dumbass called them because, like I said, I thought my car was stolen. I got lucky. They thought I had dented it and got scared. Instead of being high as a freaking kite, I got off with the cops, not with my dad. My dad and uncle had both done the whole Dramamine high thing in their youth, so I was grounded for a fat minute. I did LSD twice a couple of years ago. The first time was awesome and the second time was also awesome, but since then I just don't want to do it anymore. It's weird, but I just don't. Even though I had very positive experiences with it, I just don't want to do it again, ever again. I'm not sure why, but it doesn't really bother me. If you're wondering, I waited about 2 months or so to do my second trip. But dextromethorphan is something I did one time and will never touch again. When I had an HS, I was a bit of a fiend and I went to Walmart to get cough syrup off the shelf, Delsum Orange. I did it with 3 other friends and it fucked all of us up. We couldn't walk right, like it felt as if our legs were lagging behind our brain by a couple seconds. Eventually, I threw up like 4 times, don't remember if they did, but I did. The euphoria was weak AF and then the trip was really weird. I had the same experience. I was well into acid and my area went through a dry spell, mid-90s, so I tried robot tripping. Downed a bottle of Robitussin DM and fell asleep in the middle of the day, teenager. Well, I woke up later tripping absolute nuts, needless to say, having forgotten taking the robo. My clock radio alarm had started going off, playing Dark Side of the Moon at the spot where a guy is mumbling and giggling hysterically. My whole body felt like it was on fire, and when I went to walk, my legs literally felt like robot legs. My whole family was asleep, so I struggled up the stairs and quietly broke out in the living room, watching TV and wanting to call poison control on myself. Thank God I didn't. I knew enough from the acid that I just needed to ride it out. After I came down, I slept like a log and warned everyone about my experience. People have referred to it as evil DMT, and that checks out. Imagine the psychedelic aspects of DMT, but it lasts for hours and you feel like you're also on meth. Good fucking luck sitting still for more than a millisecond. The visuals move at 1,000,000 miles an hour and it's really hard to get any semblance of reality. Basically, you feel like you're in a crank movie and it feels like it goes on forever. Not fun. I also did a PCP analog once and that was obviously terrible. Didn't do enough to totally flip out. I was mostly confused and disoriented and nothing seemed real. I love ketamine, but this was different. Kinda similar to DPT, it was much more speedy than I would have preferred and it left me feeling scared and hopeless. Easy for me to see how enough of that shit will make someone go totally bananas. Finally, meth. Did it once by accident. Someone told me it was MDMA, and that come down, good lord. Just thinking about it gives me flashbacks. I don't really do drugs other than weed anymore, and that's probably for the best. There is a disturbing lack of mephedrone in this thread. Or maybe I'm the only idiot who got strung out on it. For the uninformed, mephedrone is better known as bath salts, good luck powder, etc. The people mentioning meth, imagine that multiplied by about 1,000. I've used every drug imaginable intravenously, and good luck powder definitely takes the cake. Immediately after injection, it felt like there was a beehive in my brain. It was so loud I had to pull my car over and put my hands over my ears. The teeth clenching was so tight I cracked multiple teeth over a 6-month binge. I didn't eat anyone's face, but my hallucinations were definitely out of control after a few days with no sleep. Celebrated 8 years clean March 10th, fuck mephedrone. Topiramate, Topamax, a drug used to treat migraines and seizure disorders. I started developing a couple of the less common side effects, including facial numbness/tingling, visual disturbances, and most concerning to me, aphasia. The scariest thing about the aphasia is that it can be permanent. Sorry, but I'll deal with the headaches, which weren't even migraines, just a stress phase I was going through, and keep my words. Peyote. Only a bad trip I ever had. I felt like I had ingested something that wasn't meant for me, being a white guy. Kept seeing people hiding just out of sight. When I would turn to look at them, they would duck back around a corner or couch. See people crawling through windows out of the corner of my eye. I felt like Native American spirits were there to fuck with me and punish me for eating their sacred plant. Felt wrong the whole time. Never had any issues with any other psychedelic, even under the most stressful situations, but for some reason, peyote got me all wrong. I was given fentanyl in a hospital setting for a lung procedure. They make you black out and go into your lung. I never had a bad experience, but I can see why people get addicted to it. I was euphoric and somebody let me go shopping. I bought all these blue dress shirts that didn't fit. Like $100s of dollars worth. I felt like I was on cloud 9 for hours. I was a senior in high school when Hurricane Katrina hit. Our house got 6 feet of water, no fun. But, one night my friends and I went to the gutted out house to smoke some marijuana out of a buddy's hookah. Buddy failed to inform us he had recently glued the bowl back together. Well, the crew lost composure. 2 people fell off the dock into the bayou, and everyone started panicking that they'd get hypothermia, not gonna happen during Louisiana summer. So people leave. I drive a group to our next spot. My Pontiac Sunfire is now a spaceship. My buddy riding shotgun started cackling hysterically, yelling about rattlesnakes in the road. We don't get those, and the 2 in the back were talking about magic or some shit. We couldn't make it to our destination due to freaking out, so went to hang out in a grocery store parking lot until we regained composure. 10 tenths would not smoke glue again. Ecstasy. Turns out it was laced with something, most likely fentanyl. Lost feeling in my legs, couldn't keep my eyes open and was in excruciating pain. Once my friends realized I was being serious and overdosing, they took me to the hospital. I swore to never take a pill again after that. I was only 17. I struggled with other drugs and was an addict. I just celebrated 2 years of sobriety from drugs this month. I tried cocaine in high school against my better judgment. It's addictive, you know. Anyway, when I was on it I felt 10 feet tall and I was super confident, everything I thought I wanted to feel about myself. Then I came down and was looking for a gun so I could kill myself because I felt so horrible. Worst feeling ever. About 15 years ago I ordered some drugs from the Silk Road site. I had read about the site and was curious if it was legit. I spent about $50, and some mystery powder came in the mail. I waited until I had the house to myself for the weekend and proceeded to get fucking blackout wasted. I've tried every drug under the sun. No idea what this was, but I never want to do it or even see it again. Days later, I found a video on my camera of myself staggering around, cross-eyed, drooling, shirtless, and trying to play guitar. It was horrifying. Bath salts. I had been told it was MDMA. It looked and tasted and originally felt like MDMA for the first 12 hours. The next 48 hours when I was still high as a kite, I thought I was never going to come down. One of my pupils was highly dilated and the other wasn't. Thankfully, I was working a solo shift at a tiny cafe in a student library when I went back to work on the third day and only had to deal with like 4 people the entire day. I legit thought I broke my brain and was okay with it because I was just continuously rolling without the major side effects. Problem was, I couldn't sleep. I think I was awake for 4 days straight before I passed out from exhaustion, and then the nightmarish experience this had caused began to wind down. I tested the rest I had and found it was bath salts, and actually swore off doing drugs. Been clean for over 6 years now. Thank you for watching Reddit Space. Please subscribe if you love these Reddit stories.